I don't really like to use the D word when it comes to talking about the Winnipeg Jets, but you know what? Let's talk about it. This team might just be a team of destiny.
You're Locked On the Hockey Jets, your daily podcast on the Winnipeg Jets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, friends, and welcome to tonight's episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Harrison Lee, an avid Winnipeg Jets fan and an online blogger. You can follow me on Twitter at HLivingLoco and at LO_Winnipeg Jets. Thanks for making Locked On Jets your first listen of the day every day. If you enjoy what you're hearing, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all of your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. Doing so, of course, is always free of charge and ensures you never miss another episode. More than anything, though, we just love and appreciate your support. Tonight's episode, obviously, we have a lot to talk about. First off, just apologies. I may sound a little quieter. I am currently battling something, so I am still wanting to talk about the Jets, but if I sound a little bit quieter, apologies. Hoping to be back feeling better later this week. But just too much good news for the most part. A little bit of sad news here tonight as well, but predominantly for all of us as Jets fans, this week could not be setting itself up any better. We'll chat about why in just a brief moment. But before we do, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, like I said, this week I think has started to feel, and really like the last 3 weeks, I would describe it as starting to feel like a team of destiny moment. The Jets have had some ups and downs, but, they're already at 53 wins, a franchise record. They have, a franchise record point getter. Things have just been continually lining up to make you feel like this is the best Jets season ever. Now, where it ranks against maybe some of the other Jets seasons, 17-18 right now might hold the edge just because the Jets were really legitimately on a cup run that year. This team hasn't yet started the playoff run, so technically you can't say it's better than that season, but in terms of the regular season accolades, zero question. This Jets team is fighting for first overall in the league, not the Central, in the league, and has a real chance on Thursday to basically wrap up not only the Central, but just about get close to wrapping up the President's Trophy, which, given this team's projections coming into the season and how differently things have panned out, really, from our own expectations and what we thought was going to happen, it's been a heck of a run. But right now, we just had amazing news. The Dallas Stars, after having a 5-2 lead heading into the final minute of regulation, somehow gave up 3 straight goals to the Vancouver Canucks and then lost in overtime. So now, Winnipeg's magic number on Thursday is just 1 point after a Jets regulation win. Even an overtime loss or win would still tilt the advantage heavily in Winnipeg's favor. So any sort of result on Thursday, and Winnipeg is feeling absolutely on cloud nine. This could be, I would argue this is probably the biggest game in franchise history. I really don't know if we have many bigger moments. You think about, sure, games that might have clinched your playoff spots and stuff, but this is different, right? This feels somehow bigger. Curious to know if you have any thoughts about what would be a bigger game in Jets franchise history. I'm struggling to think of one right off the bat, but maybe there is another one. Given what this is, though, I feel like this one is not only a season-defining moment, but a potentially franchise-defining one. If the Jets can see this game through, it's going to be a moment to remember in a season with a lot of moments to remember. This whole season has been a remarkable run, and now the Jets can potentially put the bow on it in a way that, a couple of weeks ago, it didn't really seem quite possible. Now, I always felt a little more optimistic about winning the West than I did the President's Trophy. I thought before the Caps game that the President's Trophy might just be a little bit out of reach, which I didn't really care, right? I wasn't going to be too upset. My main focus was getting through the Central and winning that first. If you got a President's Trophy banner, amazing, but not priority number one. Now, the Jets might just be about to get both, especially if they get a result on Thursday. So everything feels like it is lining up perfectly. Winnipeg is currently just living life lavishly. And with, all of these continued wins, these big results, these impressive performances, It just feels like things have completely aligned to where the Jets might truly be a team of destiny. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how else to put it, but I just feel like we are watching the makings of a special run. And I would actually be heartbroken if it ends early. I feel like this team has fought too much. They've come too far, and for it to end prematurely would be like soul crushing. I don't think it will. I think that this team has proven a level of resiliency and adaptability that we don't really see often from Jet squads. And, I credit a bonus a lot. I credit Arneal's continued buy-in from the team. Do I still have concerns and questions occasionally about some of his specific lineup choices? Absolutely. It wouldn't be a Jets fandom if we didn't still have questions. But if there's one thing that is absolutely true about this team, it is that everyone's locked in. They are all completely on board with what's happening. They are on the Arneal plan train 100% all the way. And I think it has so far paid off some big dividends in the past couple of weeks. Really, this last month of Jets hockey has probably been what I would argue has been their strongest 5v5 stretch. Yes, they have some niggling issues. The power play declining a bit maybe isn't ideal. There is some stuff to still work out, but on the whole, you really can't be too upset. And the Jets also got some good news that reinforcements are on the way soon. We'll chat about who and when we might expect them, but Winnipeg, everything just seems to be coming up Jets. There really hasn't been too much reason for pessimism. Even with some of the losses over the past week and weekend, I wasn't really worried. I knew that the Dallas Stars run really couldn't last forever and that at some point somebody was going to beat them and show them for what they really are, which is a team that's very talented and very good, but the hockey that they've been playing for the past month has been atrocious. At some point, that stuff was going to catch up to them, and it seems like it has finally done so at a very opportune time for the Winnipeg Jets. As I said earlier, I don't really like being superstitious, but it does feel like a team of destiny moment is shaping up for the Jets. Winnipeg has found ways to continually get some big results against big opponents. They really silenced and suffocated the Blues. They played a very strong game against the Caps. They embarrassed Vegas for the first time ever. We just don't ever see this kind of stuff, right? What the Jets have managed to pull together in light of several injuries to some of their biggest contributors has been nothing short of remarkable. This team really feels like it is at the right time peaking. This is genuinely great hockey, genuinely elite 5v5 play, elite 5v5 discipline and defensive structure. Sure, the PK may still be a little bit leaky, but the rest of the team has really stepped up, and I just come away feeling like the team has proven what I've wanted them to prove at some critical junctures recently. I think the Jets have shown that, this year it's going to be different. They don't want to repeat previous seasons. They are ready to move on from regular season success to truly making a deep playoff run. And if that is something that truly comes out of this season, it's going to be such a special moment. I feel like this team, even with its flaws, still has the potentially enough juice to make it all the way. They've got to do some work to get there. But if they were to truly make it all the way to the finish line and even just either get through the Western Conference Finals or even make, a Cup Finals appearance, how amazing would that be for the city? I hope it happens. I kind of feel like we're on that magical run. I'm getting a lot of 17-18 vibes from this team. And if the Jets can pull it off, man, who's to say they aren't the ones hoisting the trophy at the end of the year? But still a bit of a ways to go before then. We've got not only a couple of regular season games, but 16 playoff wins all the way to title winning ceremonies. But of course, before then, the Jets are hoping for some encouraging news on the injury front, and they have had it. We'll chat about that in just a brief moment. But before we do, did want to shout out our friends and partners at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all your money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and can actually start building wealth. This is a place where if you're spending a lot on streaming services or maybe dining out a few too many times a week, Monarch Money can help you control that spending, track where those hidden expenses are, and help you get back on track. And of course, it's all in one place. You don't have to use multiple apps. You can check your finances, track spending, and even set long term goals. And if you've got a partner or spouse, there are shared accounts, so you will always be on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Hey friends, and welcome back to this episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Everydayers, thank you so much for rejoining us on tonight's episode as we are chatting about some good news for the Jets on the near horizon. Amidst all of the recent games and stuff, obviously the Jets have been having to win without some of their biggest players. Ehlers is still a little bit of a mystery right now, a bit of a game time decision, I would imagine. Hoping the next couple of days he heals up and is ready to go for the biggest game of the season on Thursday. This team is still great without him, but just having his transition game and speed is such a blessing for this team, and especially his transition play. Against Utah, I think it was very noticeable that it wasn't present. But with the Stars still without Heiskanen, they are not that fast. And so I think that really lends itself to how the Jets play recently. Winnipeg against teams that aren't speedy is a very different animal, right? Winnipeg against slow squads, they piece them apart. They generally shut them down. And I think it's going to look similar to what happened the last time the Stars played the Jets, where Dallas really couldn't get much going. But of course, you would still like to have your full complement of forwards. Now, Ehlers is going to be the only guy who's probably back. There is a chance that Pionk is going to be skating this week. He's been hitting the ice a bit more. I don't think it's going to be this week that he comes back. I could be wrong, but it does sound like he is increasingly nearing a return. I just don't think it's going to be against Dallas. I think the Jets probably want to give him at least another game or two, maybe in the final 2 to 3 games we see him come back. There's definitely not a particular urgency to rush him back, but I do think, would really be helpful to see him back alongside Sandberg. Schenn, I think, has done about as strong of a job as you could ask of him, but if you actually see how he's been playing, the lack of foot speed on that second pairing has been a bit of an issue. He's going to clear out the net front area and stuff, but he does concede a lot of chances, and I think that's been a little more noticeable without Pionk. Neal and Sandberg move the puck a lot more efficiently. They tend to get it up the ice faster. And so having that pairing back and like a Schenn Miller third pairing, I think would get you into really good straits. But Pionk does sound like he's closing in on a return, just a matter of when. Very good news for the Jets. You're having your top 4D back the way you would like it to should be a huge blessing. Now, what happens with the third pairing is, to me, of interest. Arneal has really given a lot of deference to Stanley this year, and I don't think it's just him. I think Chenoweth also really likes him because Chenoweth really loves big players. My own personal feeling is that size should not be your primary determinant in whether you think that player is good. If they help you move the puck and help you defend well, that's really the most important part. If you also happen to be big, that's a great advantage. But I think for the Jets, sometimes the size bias has gotten a little bit in front of their eyes, and they haven't always seen, the bigger story where maybe somebody wasn't doing that well. So, interesting to see if they try to make Stanley a playoff thing. I'd really prefer Schenn and Miller as your third pairing, and that's kind of where I think the Jets will probably go, but I don't want to read too much into it just yet. Now, the biggest news, Gabe Vilardi sounds like he's going to be hitting the ice in the very near future. He's been back, I think, working out and stuff. It sounds like his return is relatively nearish at hand, considering what we were worried about. Maybe first round of the playoffs is what we're talking about. Maybe he's back for that opening his first series. That'd be great for the Jets. Obviously having Gabriel back at full strength and somewhere in the lineup, I think would be fantastic. The power play very much misses him. The team's finishing talent has also not quite been as potent without him. I think it's very obvious that a guy of his caliber and talent really is needed. Where I have an interesting question, though, is where you play him. I really feel like with Connor Scheifele and Iafallo, and Connor Scheifele and Perfetti having shown incredible performances recently, I don't see how you can break up that top line. I like Vilardi a lot. I don't think that Connor Scheifele-Velarde was as dominant as what we've seen. Against the Blues, for instance, Connor Scheifele and Iafallo completely won like the expected goals battle, like 80% expected goals for share. They had like 70% shot share advantage. It was absolutely ridiculous, even by standards of them playing really well recently. This was sheer dominance on a level from the top line that we really haven't seen since Ehlers Scheifele-Velarde. And it came with a combination that I don't think any of us were really expecting to be this good. Connor Scheifele and I have followed the past couple of weeks have honestly been mint. I've been really impressed with the approach. And I think one of the biggest things that works out quite well is Iafallo is more of a forechecking presence, but he's not afraid to crash the crease. And because of that, I think he naturally draws a lot of attention. He also wins his physical battles a little more often. So when he gets pressured along the walls and stuff, with Velarde, I feel like Gabriel tends to turn it over a little bit more, but Iafallo will fight through those checks and actually gets himself towards the net. And with Scheifele and Connor kind of prowling in the perimeter, it gives them more time and space to work, which lets them do their best, right? And I think that this trio has really surpassed expectations from last year. In the previous 300 minutes from the Bone season with them, they were awful. It's been a completely different story this year. CSI, as they've been come to be known, are leading the investigations against opponents, finding their weaknesses, and dealing absolute death blows to them in incredible fashion. It's been a great run, and for me, I would actually love to see Velarde alongside a Lowry type, right? I know that Arneal's a little bit set in some of his combinations. Like, he really likes Ehlers, Nemesnikov, and Perfetti, so I assume that trio stays together or something similar. But if you get Velarde back, and especially if you're easing him in, give me 62, 17, and 13. Make it the Lowry line. I feel like that's a ground and pound unit with Velarde on the third line that gives you unreal finishing ability and a great congruency of skill sets. I think if Lowry can sort of be the more aggressive forechecking presence alongside Niederreiter grinding in the walls, maybe this gives time and space to Velarde to be that really deft finesse player. I think sometimes he's thought to be a more physical presence than he really is. And so having, that extra bit of time and space to work with, I think is going to let him find more shooting angles. That, I think, is really critical to his game. It'll let him tackle defenders a little more aggressively closer to the net, and I think it'll really benefit everyone. That trio really needs a finisher anyways, because Appleton, while he's been okay this year, not exactly the guy that you want to lean on for a lot of goals. Velarde might be able to take a bigger advantage of that. So I think there's a lot of ways to arrange this. I am personally a big fan of Ehlers and Lowry playing together, but I know that that's not how Arneal necessarily sees it. So just kind of have to roll with the punches a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if Arneal goes back to CSV at the start once Velarde's back. I feel like that is a bit of a mistake, and I kind of wonder if maybe the players say something. Arneal is really respected, and so if Scheifele were to argue that his line has really been good with Iafallo out there, maybe it would have an impact if he said that he wants it to stay together. These guys all really trust each other. I would assume that they're seeing some of the same things that we are. And unlike, having Ehlers on the flanks, Iafallo's a more straightforward, very direct, predictable kind of player. So a lot of the challenge of playing with an Ehlers type, I don't think really applies in the same way. Iafallo will go towards the net. He'll go for the rebounds. He's a greasy, crash the crease kind of guy. I think that works out a lot better for the Jets, and it would also be a bit of a comfort for Scheifele, so he knows exactly what to expect and how to make the most of Iafallo's abilities. That, I hope, is kind of how they see it. I don't know that it is, but if they do, and they keep with this line combination, I think the Jets have much better playoff prospects. I think they could go on a much better run because the top line that can control play the way that they have is elite. So, really impressed so far. Hope it continues. And once Velarde, Pionk, and Ehlers are back, this team is going to have what feels like a wealth of weapons to choose from on top of an already very strong foundation of 5v5 play. I just really hope that Arneal doesn't arrange it in a way that takes away some of the really good defensive prowess and skill that we've seen on top of the work ethic and shutdown ability that the Jets have exhibited. This has been a great run without them, and with them back, I hope that they go on an even bigger, deeper run. But of course, we're going to have to wait just a bit longer for that. probably a couple of weeks before everyone's back in the fold. But given how the Jets have been recently, even without them, I suppose you really can't complain too much. The main thing is just making sure that they get healthy and that they are ready for the postseason once it finally rolls around. And really, it's just a few weeks away. Around a little over 2 now, or actually a little under 2 now. So very excited. April 19th really can't get here soon enough. It's going to be a good time for the Winnipeg Jets. But of course, I did mention that there was some slightly sad news amidst all of this. We had some mixed news out of the Manitoba Moose earlier. Chaz Lucius is going to be retiring. We'll chat about why, plus some better Moose news. It's not going to be all dour, but of course, for Lucius, this is a tough development, and we all wish him the best. But before we dive into that, did want to let you know about our friends and partners at Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates quickly? Easy, just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs post puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. I've used Indeed looking for work many years ago. Their resume builder was super comprehensive, very convenient, very clear to fill out. And once I actually submitted it, it matched jobs immediately, not only to my job experience and work disciplines and domains of expertise, but also my salary requirements. It was super convenient. It was immediate. And as soon as I started applying, I heard back from plenty of employment prospects. So very convenient. And for employers who are looking for workers, I have to imagine that this is super convenient, very easy, and no stress. So you can speed up your hiring process right now with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Jets podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. Hey friends, and welcome back to this episode of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Everydayers, thank you so much for rejoining us on tonight's episode as we're just wrapping up with some Moose news. Not the happiest news for the Jets to start off with. Very sad, actually. Chaz Lucius has announced that he is actually retiring from hockey, and we all sort of were hearing rumors about this, but the specific reason, I think, was very unexpected. He has been diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a hereditary condition. It affects your body's muscular ability to connect tissues, and it explains why he has had routine issues over the years, a lot of recurring injuries. He thought it was just bad luck, and I think that was the assumption, but he has basically been playing through pain for years. The fact that he has been playing hockey through EDS is quite frankly extraordinary. EDS is, from what I understand, extremely difficult to deal with. You have a lot of pain daily, and for Lucius to fight as hard as he did and actually come back to the AHL this year for like a 20-game stretch is honestly a little scary, but also incredible. It shows that he really was in the heart of a lion, and it's a shame that it's not going to be able to be something he can continue. EDS, for those of you who probably don't know, is something that most pro athletes really can't play through, especially a very high contact, very physical sport like hockey. EDS is absolutely not something that you want to mess with. So we wish Lucius all the best. He was supremely talented, and I think, the Jets really thought he was going to be an eventual superstar for them, another high-end American prospect in the Kyle Connor sort of mold, elite scorer, elite skater. It's really a shame that he just wasn't able to stay healthy enough for that. But now that we know why, hopefully he can get some treatment and have a more comfortable living off the ice. So wishing Lucius the best of luck. We'll be supporting and backing his brother as well, Cruz, who continues to play hockey. So really thinking of his family, and hopefully Chaz can really succeed in the next stage of his future, whatever it is. On some slightly happier news, the Jets have also signed Kieran Walton to his ELC. He showed up to the Moose today on his athletic tryout. He still has one more year before he's eligible to come to the pro leagues, unless the Jets were to file for an exception. I don't think that really happens that often, so I wouldn't read too much into it. But assuming that he actually has a really successful ATO, I just think it gives him a lot of confidence heading into next season. As an 18-year-old, 6'6", absolute terror as a winger. He has been a really big revelation for the Jets prospect system. I'd rank him probably somewhere in the top 5 of the Jets system, which is increasingly showing some really good value picks. Obviously, guys like Salamanson, Lambert, Chibrikov, and a few others might technically be ahead right now, but I think Walton has really elevated himself to a level to where he's getting really close to that group. His points production this year as an 18-year-old, like 90 odd points in the regular season, very crazy. He is just, a super dynamic talent, and I think he actually has some really projectable offensive skills. How much of it will translate from, the juniors is still obviously an open question, but given his work ethic and improvement this year, his meteoric rise, and what he seems to want to do with the Jets, I have a lot of confidence in him. I feel very good about him as a prospect. Very clearly, he'd be one of the Jets' best sixth-round picks ever. It's really funny. The Jets find some real great gems in the latter rounds. Hellebuyck was, a fifth rounder, if I recall correctly. So Winnipeg continues to find gems hidden a little bit past the first couple of rounds. Sure, Kevin, he might have been picked a little bit higher, but he's still a later round pick, and he seems like he's progressing very nicely. He'll be joining, the Moose probably in the very near future. I think his Niagara days are over, so very happy for him. But for the Jets, man, it's going to be a good time. Our young kids are really starting to take the reins. The Moose really need a lot of offensive help. I think Manitoba has had a lot of issues, and apologies as I misspoke. He actually does have one more year of eligibility for the OHL. I think he will be going back, and so he'll play there for a little bit. But both he and Walton will probably be the following year for the Moose. I think that's great. He will have at least an ATO this year, and then he'll be eligible for full-time pro duty. So we're already seeing the makings of the next great Jets core shaping up. And if they can eventually come in the following seasons and make an impact in the Jets lineup, that would be really impressive. I suspect that they will be late cuts in the coming years. Of course, Braden Yeager's still out there, and he's likely to be fighting for a Jet spot as early as next year. Obviously, the Jets prospects probably have a little bit further to go before they actually make the NHL. But, I mean, you're feeling pretty good about it, right? You think you've got the makings of a good future core. You've got Hellebuyck locked up. You've got Scheifele locked up. There are a couple of players that they'll have to make some tough decisions on, what you do with Ehlers and Connor. I hope that they both are able to come back, but we'll just have to wait and see. But at least for a lot of the Moose kids, man, they continue to improve. They are, future Moose kids, I guess. They look like they will be leading the way eventually with Jets roles. I'm very excited about it. Walton, he, Chibrikov, Lambert, all these guys facing in the next couple of seasons. The next version of the Winnipeg Jets is really close at hand, relatively speaking. So let me know which prospects you're excited about. Who are you hoping to see? Drop your comments below or at my social medias at HLivingLoco and at LO_Winnipeg Jets. For tonight's episode, though, that is all the time that we have. I thank you so much for listening and making us your first listen of the day, every day. Health willing, I will see you guys here tomorrow with more Jets coverage and maybe some thoughts ahead of Winnipeg versus Dallas. But for tonight's show, that's all the time that we have. Thanks for listening. Have a great night. And as always, go Jets go.